People who don't live near water think fog is a thing that happens to you, like a weather report that gets under your collar. People who work the canals know fog is a character. It arrives with intentions. It drifts where it pleases. It steals sound. It makes distances lie. And yet, real fog doesn't move like it's been told where to go. I've worked the Limehouse Cut long enough to read it in the dark, long enough to know which bricks sweat first when the air turns, long enough to tell you where the rats will cross before you hear them. The Cut is a straight slice of water, a hard line through East London that connects old industry to newer money. It's not romantic like Regent's Canal, not postcard pretty, and it doesn't care who you are. Barges still slide through it, narrowboats still grumble cast, and the water still carries things that don't want to be seen. That night, I was heading west, easing my little workboat along the towpath side, the engine low, careful not to wake the flats that look down like expensive judges. Canary Wharf had its usual glow in the distance, a clean, cold light that makes the old East End feel like it's been put on display. I'd finished a late run, nothing heroic, some kit for a small maintenance job at Bow, tools, rope, a sack of sand, the sort of work nobody notices until it isn't done. The Cut was quiet, too quiet. Even the DLR noise felt far away, as if the trains were passing behind a thick curtain.
The air had that metallic bite that comes before fog, the kind that makes your throat feel as if you've swallowed a coin. Then I saw it. A bank of fog sat ahead like a low wall, a pale mass pressed to the water. But it wasn't spread out, lazy and natural. It was contained. It had edges, a shape. It looked almost carried. And inside it, right in the middle, a lantern burned. Not a street lamp reflection, not a phone screen. A proper lantern glow, warm and amber, floating at shoulder height. It bobbed slightly, as if held by a hand walking on invisible ground. I eased off the throttle until the boat crawled. The fog bank drifted forward, not with the wind, but against it, slow, certain, like a barge with no hull. The lantern swayed again. The fog shifted around it, parting then closing, like breath. I leaned over the side and listened. I expected a splash, a muffled engine, the scrape of metal, something. Nothing. Just the faintest clink, like a chain touching a rail. The fog moved on, sliding down the cut toward Limehouse Basin, lanterns steady inside it, as if the fog itself was carrying the flame. My skin prickled in that old way the water gives you, the way it says, "This isn't for you." I should have turned around. I should have gone home. I should have decided it was someone's strange little midnight performance, or my tired eyes playing games with light. But the cut teaches you something. If the water shows you a lie, the truth is usually underneath it. So I followed.
If you've never steered a boat through city water at night, you might imagine it as peaceful. It can be, in the way cemeteries can be peaceful. The calm is a kind of agreement. You don't shout. The water doesn't rise. You don't make sudden decisions. The dark doesn't surprise you. I kept a distance, letting the fog lead, keeping my engine so low it was more vibration than sound. The lantern stayed in the center of the moving mist, not bright enough to throw a beam far, but bright enough to make the fog glow from within, like milk lit by a candle. It was the movement that bothered me most. Fog doesn't hold itself together like that, not in a straight band, not with a tidy front edge. Fog spreads, it does not march. The towpath was empty. No joggers, no drunks, no late-night cyclists with fluorescent wheel lights. The kind of empty that feels arranged. As we neared Narrow Street, the water took on different smells. Diesel from moored boats, old brick, the faint tang of river air. Limehouse has layers. You can stand there and feel centuries of work pressing under the new cafes. The fog bank slowed at a bend where the cut widens slightly, where the walls are higher and the lights are fewer. The lantern dipped once, twice, like a signal. I held my breath. A shape slid out of the darkness on the far side, a low, flat craft, black-painted, close to the waterline. It moved without a sound I could hear, no engine note, just glide. The fog curled toward it as if drawn. The lantern drifted closer.
For a second, I thought of old stories, will o' the wisps, ghost lights that lure men into water. My dad used to laugh at that nonsense, then cross himself anyway when he passed a certain stretch of river. Then the fog thickened and the lantern glow blurred. The black craft came alongside the fog bank, and something moved between them, a long shape lifted carefully, as if carried by two people. The shape was wrapped in something pale, a tarpaulin, a sheet. It sagged in the middle, the way weight sags when it's not supported by bone and muscle anymore. The lantern bobbed. The fog swallowed the transfer. My stomach went cold. I wasn't watching a ghost story. I was watching a job. The black craft backed away, barely disturbing the water. The fog, still impossibly intact, began to move again, lantern steady inside it, continuing toward Limehouse Basin as if nothing had happened. I stared at the water where the craft had been. A ripple widened, then flattened. London kept breathing. I did what every sensible man does when he sees something he shouldn't. I reached for my phone with shaking fingers, then hesitated. Because who do you call, and what do you say? Hello, yes, I'm on the Limehouse Cut at midnight, and I'm following a fog bank that's carrying a lantern, and I think it just ate a body. I could already hear the silence on the other end, the polite pause, the mental note that I was either drunk or mad. So instead, I did something worse. I kept following.
Limehouse Basin is where the cut opens up into a broader water space, surrounded by moorings and flats. By day, you see paddleboards, delivery vans, the occasional tourist who took a wrong turn and found water instead of Tower Bridge. By night, it becomes a bowl of reflected light, every window staring down like an audience that doesn't clap. The fog bank slid into the basin and began to unravel slightly, thinning at the edges, as if it had reached its destination and was allowed to relax. The lantern remained, hovering near the center, moving toward a quiet corner where a service dock jutted out near an old brick building that had once been something industrial and was now something expensive. A private gate stood there, keypad, CCTV, a tidy sign warning you the area was monitored. The fog didn't care. The lantern dipped again. A figure emerged from behind the dock shed, hood up, shoulders hunched. They stepped into the fog like it was a doorway. Another figure followed. I cut my engine and drifted, using the gentle pull of the basin to keep my boat angled toward them, staying behind a moored narrowboat whose faded paint looked like it had seen better decades. The figures moved with purpose. No panic, no rush. People in a hurry make noise. These people moved like they'd rehearsed. The lantern lent out. Not slowly, not from wind. It winked off like someone pinched it. For a moment, the fog was just pale mist. Suddenly, ordinary.
Then a small motor started somewhere behind the dock, low and controlled. A different craft, maybe the same black one, shifted position in the gloom. I heard the faintest squeal of rubber against wet metal, like a trolley wheel. A body doesn't weigh like luggage. Anyone who's carried one, at a funeral, at a hospital, in war, knows that. It pulls, it fights, it refuses to be tidy. But the way they moved that wrapped shape suggested two things. They were strong, and they'd done it before. The wrapped shape disappeared down a ramp into the brick building. The door shut. The sound was soft, padded, like it had been oiled. The fog thinned further, losing its cohesion, becoming a natural haze, as if it had never been anything else. The basin lights returned to normal. The world clicked back into place. I sat there, hands gripping the wheel hard enough to hurt, feeling the ridiculous urge to laugh. Not because it was funny, because it was impossible that I'd just seen something so blatant, so theatrical, and yet so clean. A moving fog bank with a lantern inside it, a staged ghost story to cover a body transfer. If you wanted to hide something in London, you didn't need fog, you needed indifference. The city is full of people who look past each other. But these people weren't relying on indifference. They were using theatre, and theatre is a message. I told myself, go home, let the police handle it, let someone braver, someone officially paid for bravery, deal with it. Then I remembered the keypad gate.
The cameras, the private dock, and the way the lantern went out like a switch. This wasn't some desperate accident. This was organized. And if it was organized, the next thing would be planned too. I backed my boat away, slow and careful. And as I turned toward the cut again, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. I stared at it. The screen lit my hands, pale as fish bellies. I answered. No one spoke, but I heard breathing and, faintly, the clink of a chain. The next morning, London did what it always does after a night of secrets. It put on a suit and pretended it hadn't seen anything. I went to a cafe off Narrow Street, one of those places that serves coffee like it's a confession. I sat near the window where I could watch the street, the river end, the faces of people who thought they were invisible. I called the only person I trusted to tell me if I was losing my mind, Raj. Raj worked maintenance for the Canal network. He knew every lock, every gate, every stretch where the water liked to misbehave. He'd pulled bikes out of the cut, fished out shopping trolleys, even once helped the police recover a safe that someone had clearly regretted. He arrived with his jacket half-zipped, hair still damp from a quick shower, smelling faintly of engine oil and peppermint gum. He sat down and didn't ask why I'd sounded strange on the phone. He just looked at me like he'd already decided something was wrong. "You look like you've seen something," he said. "I did," I replied. I told him about the fog, the lantern, the black craft, the wrapped shape. I kept my voice low, as if the words themselves might be overheard and reported back. Raj didn't laugh. That was the first thing that scared me. Instead, he stirred his coffee slowly and said, "Where exactly?" I described the bend before the basin, the high walls, the stretch where the towcath lights are weaker. Raj nodded as if mapping it in his head. Fog can be made, he said. I know.
Not just with smoke machines, he continued, but with chilled vapor, dry ice and water, or glycol fog, if you have the equipment. And the lantern? A lantern is just a light, Raj said. You can carry a light anywhere, even in fog, especially in fog. But it moved, I insisted. The fog moved like it had a spine. Raj finally looked uneasy. Air currents, he said, but it wasn't confident. Or a moving source. A moving source. He leaned closer. You can mount foggers on a low craft, run it quietly, keep it low to the water. The fog sits, makes a bank. You steer the bank. I stared at him. You're telling me someone built a fog boat? Raj's mouth tightened. I'm telling you it's possible. That didn't make me feel better. It made me feel like London had upgraded from hiding things badly to hiding them cleverly. What do I do? I asked. Raj took a breath as if considering the weight of him answer. If you go to the police, you need something real, not the ghost story. I have my memory. Memory doesn't convict people, he said gently. And if they called you, they already know you were there. That hit me like cold water. Raj tapped my phone on the table. Unknown number? I nodded. He sighed. Then you need to be careful. You're not watching a random crime. You're watching a system. And systems don't like witnesses. Outside, a delivery cyclist ran past, humming to himself, and for a moment, the normality of it all made me want to scream. Raj stood up. Show me the spot tonight. You'll come? He shrugged. I'd rather be there than read about you in the paper. That afternoon, I tried to work, tried to do ordinary things, but my hands kept remembering the sag of that wrapped shape. At dusk, as the city dimmed and the cut began to look like a black ribbon again, Raj called me. 2 things, he said. Go on. 1, there was an incident report filed at Limehouse Basin at 2 a.m. about a malfunctioning security light on that private dock. My throat tightened. And 2? Raj's voice lowered. Someone booked a refrigerated van permit for that area last night. Temporary access. Private contractor. A body transfer, I whispered. Raj didn't deny it. He only said, meet me at the towpath entrance by the footbridge and bring something that records. London fog doesn't arrive on schedule. It doesn't do favors. It doesn't repeat itself for dramatic effect. But the next night, just after midnight, the air thickened again as if the cut had been holding its breath all day. Raj and I stood near the footbridge, tucked behind the dark outline of a willow that looked like it had survived out of stubbornness. He had a small body camera clipped under his jacket and a phone mount that could hold steady video. I'd brought a torch, rope, and the uncomfortable certainty that we were making ourselves into targets. We didn't talk much. Words felt loud. At 12:17, the fog bank appeared, exactly where I'd seen it before. It rolled in low, hugging the water, its front edge neat as a curtain. And inside it, like the heart of a theater prop, the lantern glowed. Raj's breath left him in a soft curse. Fog boat, he murmured, voice tight. We watched it drift against the wind again. It moved with calm intent, as if it knew the route. Raj lifted his phone, filming. The light from the screen made his face ghostly. If we get this clear. The lantern dipped, and the fog bank slowed. Raj's hand tightened. Here comes the other craft.
But this time it didn't. No black low craft emerged. Instead, the fog bank approached the towpath side, approached us, slowly, steadily. The lantern glow brightened slightly, or maybe it only felt brighter because it was coming closer. Raj froze. I felt a ridiculous urge to step backward, as if fog couldn't cross pavement. The fog bank stopped 10 feet from us. The lantern hovered at head height now, the glow diffused by mist. Then a voice spoke from inside it. Quiet, male, close enough to hear clearly. "You're early," it said. Raj and I looked at each other, a silent exchange of terror and disbelief. "We're not," Raj started. The voice interrupted. "Don't make it complicated. Walk away. Let the cut do what it does." I swallowed. "Who are you?" A small sound like a chuckle, swallowed by fog. "A man who dislikes loose ends." The lantern tilted, as if its holder was studying us. Then softly, the chain clinked, exactly like what I'd heard on the phone. Raj's eyes widened. He mouthed, "Chain." "Last warning," the voice said. "The water keeps secrets. You don't." The fog bank shifted. The lantern moved slightly to the left, revealing, just for a second, a pale hand gripping its handle, not gloved, bare. Then the fog rolled forward again, sliding past us, lantern steady, continuing toward the basin. Raj exhaled like he'd been underwater. "They know," he whispered. "Yes," I said, voice rough, "and they're not scared." We followed anyway, because once you've been warned by a fog bank, your choices start to feel less like choices and more like momentum. We kept a greater distance now. Raj filmed from behind cover, using the towpath shadows. The fog bank reached the bend, slowed, lantern dipping. This time the black craft did appear, gliding in like a shark fin. And the wrapped shape came out again. But before the transfer happened, the lantern turned toward the towpath where we were hidden. It paused, as if listening. Raj held his breath so long, I thought he'd faint. Then the transfer happened quickly, almost impatiently. The wrapped shape moved into the fog, vanishing like a magician's trick. The black craft backed away, and the fog bank proceeded to the basin. Raj's voice trembled. "We've got it." "Do we?" I whispered, because even as he said it, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number, and on the screen, a message appeared. "Stop filming." We didn't go straight to the police. Not yet. Not because we didn't want to, because we didn't know who the police belonged to in a city where money buys patience and patience buys silence. Instead, Raj insisted we go closer, get one thing that couldn't be dismissed as fog and light, the door. If we could capture the wrapped shape going into the private building, if we could show the path of a body transfer, then the story would stop being two blokes saw a weird mist and start being there is a systematic crime operation using private canal access. We approached Limehouse Basin carefully, staying low, moving along moored boats like shadows. The fog bank arrived and finned at the edges. The lantern winked off again like a switch. Two hooded figures guided the wrapped shape toward the brick building. Raj filmed through a gap between railings, hands steady through sheer will. I watched the corner, ready to run if footsteps approached. The building's door opened. It wasn't a normal warehouse door. It was modern, secure, with rubber seals. the kind of door you'd see on a cold storage facility. A chill crawled up my spine. Refrigerated van permit, cold storage door. They pushed the wrapped shape inside. The door shut without a slam, just a soft, polite closure, as if the building was trained to keep quiet. Raj zoomed in on the keypad, on the CCTV camera above it. Then, in the reflection of a nearby window, I saw movement. A third figure, standing on the dock behind us, watching.
"Raj," I whispered. He didn't respond. His eyes were glued to the screen, capturing the best evidence we'd had so far. The third figure stepped closer. I could hear shoes on wet boards. Calm, unhurried. I turned, ready to shout, to confront, to do something loud and stupid. But the figure raised a hand in a small, almost friendly gesture. It was a woman. Mid-30s, maybe. Hair tucked under a beanie, coat too thin for the cold. She looked like she belonged to the area, like someone who'd walked these paths for years without being noticed. "Don't," she said softly, eyes flicking to Raj's phone. "Not here." I blinked. "Who are you?" She stared toward the brick building. "Someone who's been waiting for someone brave enough to film the door." Raj finally noticed her and nearly dropped his phone. "Are you with them?" he hissed. She shook her head. "If I was with them, you'd already be in the water." My mouth went dry. She stepped closer, voice low. "They'll sleep the basin. They always do. You have 2 minutes before a patrol comes around, private security." Raj tightened his grip. "Why are you helping us?" Her eyes flicked toward the water. "Because the last person who saw that fog didn't get to tell anyone." A cold silence settled in my chest. She continued, "You want to make this real, you need names. The building is leased through a shell. The dock access is authorized through a management company. They move the packages into a van at dawn when the streets are quiet." Raj's voice barely worked. "How do you know?" The woman's jaw tightened. "Because I work nearby. Because I saw the fog first. Because I didn't follow it fast enough." Footsteps sounded from the far side of the basin. 2 men, radios crackling softly, sweeping their torch beams across the dock. The woman grabbed my sleeve. "Now." We moved, quick and silent, slipping behind a moored barge. Raj kept filming into the last second, then shoved the phone into his jacket like it was a stolen jewel. We crouched in the shadows as the private security walked past, talking in bored voices about kids vandalizing lights and some idiot leaving the gate ajar last week. The woman watched them with hard familiarity. When they passed, she turned back to us. "If you're going to do this," she said, "do it properly, because once you start, you don't get to stop." Raj swallowed. "What's your name?" She hesitated, then said, "Mara." I don't know if it was real, but it was what she offered, and in London you take what you're given and pray it's enough.
Mara led us away from the basin, not toward safety exactly, but toward places where people don't look. Underpasses, service stairs, the narrow paths behind old brick walls where the city's backstage machinery lives. She moved like someone who knew where cameras couldn't see. Raj kept asking questions, short and urgent. Why stage fog? To hide the transfer, Mara said. Why a lantern? Because it makes people look at the lantern instead of the edges, she replied. It makes a story, and stories distract. I hated how clever that was.
Humans are simple creatures. Give us a glowing light in the dark, and we forget to look for hands carrying a wrapped shape. We stopped beneath an old bridge where the graffiti was layered like history. The water flowed below, black and smooth. Mara pulled out a folded paper map, an actual paper map, creased and worn. Raj blinked. Who uses paper? People who don't want their routes recorded, she said. She spread it out and pointed to the cut, the basin, the private dock. Then she traced a line toward a service road and circled a spot marked with nothing special. Here, she said, that's where the van waits. I stared. It's just a patch of road. Exactly, Mara said. No cameras on that stretch. A blind spot between two new developments. The developers didn't argue. The council didn't push. Funny, isn't it? Raj's eyes narrowed. This is bigger than a couple of criminals. Mara didn't deny it. She only said, they're moving bodies.
Bodies come from somewhere. I felt my throat tighten. Who are the bodies? Mara's gaze softened for the first time. Not tourists, not rich people. People who vanish quietly. People whose missing posters don't get shared. Raj looked sick. How many? Mara folded the map. Enough that I stopped counting. Enough that the fog comes back like a shift change. A siren wailed faintly in the distance. Some other emergency. Some other story. London's constant soundtrack. Mara looked at Raj's jacket pocket, where the phone was hidden. You have footage. Back it up. 2 places. Encrypted if you can, because they'll try to take it. Raj nodded. And then, I asked. Mara's eyes fixed on me. Then you decide what kind of man you want to be. I wanted to tell her I was just a bargeman, just a bloke who knew the cut, that heroism wasn't in my job description. But I also remembered the sag of that wrapped shape. So I asked the only question that mattered. How do we stop the next transfer? Mara stared at the water for a long moment, as if listening to it. Catch them at the van, she said finally. The fog is theater. The van is reality. Raj swallowed. That means waiting until dawn. Mara nodded. And it means they'll be armed with more than lanterns. We didn't talk after that, because once the plan exists, you can't pretend you're not part of it. We hid near the service road Mara marked, tucked behind stacked construction barriers and a skip that smelled like wet plaster. The sky lightened slowly, that gray London pre-morning that makes you doubt the sun is ever coming back. The city was quieter than midnight. Midnight has energy, people out, taxis, music leaking from windows. Dawn is emptier, cleaner, as if the city is briefly between identities. Raj had backed up the video to a tiny SD card and hidden it in his sock. He'd also uploaded a copy to a cloud drive under a new account name. The man was practical even when terrified. Mara crouched beside us, watching the road like it owed her money. At 5:11, a refrigerated van turned into the blind spot. White, unmarked, clean. It parked with its rear doors facing the canal side access route. 2 men got out, work boots, high-vis jackets, the kind of outfit that lets you walk anywhere in London without being questioned. If you look like you're fixing something, people assume you belong. They didn't speak much. One lit a cigarette, shielding the flame with his palm. The other checked his phone, then glanced up at the skyline, as if timing something. Mara whispered, "This is it." Raj's hands tightened. "What do we do?" Mara's eyes flicked to my rope. "We don't fight them. We expose them." "How?" I hissed. "Make them talk," she said. "Make them panic." And before I could argue, Mara stepped out from cover and walked toward the van like she owned the pavement.
Raj grabbed my sleeve.
She's mad. But Mara moved with calm confidence, head up, shoulders relaxed, like a bored resident out for a smoke. The cigarette man looked up. "All right, love?" Mara smiled, too bright, too casual. "Morning. You lads doing deliveries now?" The man laughed. "Maintenance?" Mara nodded, as if satisfied. Then she leaned in slightly, voice lowering. "Funny time for maintenance." The other man's eyes narrowed. "You should move along." Mara's smile didn't fade. "I was just thinking, if the fog is late tonight, you'll have to carry it yourselves." The cigarette man froze. The other man's face hardened. "Who are you?" Mara shrugged. "Someone who watches." The man stepped closer. "You didn't see anything." Mara tilted her head. "I saw everything." That was the moment the game changed. The men's posture shifted from casual to ready. The cigarette dropped, crushed under a boot. Raj rose from cover instinctively, phone in hand, filming. I stepped out too, heart punching my ribs. "Back off," I called, even though my voice sounded thin. The men stared at us now. 3 witnesses. 3 problems. The second man spoke into a radio clipped under his jacket. "We've got interference." My blood ran cold. Mara backed away slowly, eyes locked on them. "You can't do this forever," she said quietly. The cigarette man smiled without humor. "We can do it as long as we need." And then, from the canal side access route, the fog arrived. Not on the water this time, on the land.
A low, rolling white bank creeping around the corner like it had legs. And inside it, that same warm lantern glow. Raj's voice cracked. "They can move it anywhere." Mara's eyes went wide, genuine fear for the first time. The fog wasn't just theater. It was their shield, and now it was coming for us. The fog rolled toward the van, swallowing the road edges, muffling sound. The lantern glow bobbed within it, closer now, too close. The 2 men stepped backward into the fog, like they trusted it more than daylight. Their outlines blurred, then vanished. Mara grabbed my arm. "Run!" But Raj kept filming, stubborn, desperate. "This is proof. This is—" A hand emerged from the fog and snatched at Raj's phone. Raj yelped and pulled back, but the grip was strong, dragging him forward. I lunged, grabbing Raj's jacket, anchoring him. The fog pulled like a tide. Inside the fog, a voice spoke. The same voice from the night before. "You were warned." The lantern glow flared briefly, then steadied. Mara's voice was sharp. "Let him go." A laugh, low and calm. "Why?" Raj struggled, feet scraping. "Eddie, don't." I tightened my grip, feeling my shoulder strain. I couldn't see who was pulling him, only the fog and the lantern, only the sense that something was calmly dismantling us. Mara did the only smart thing. She shouted. Not a scream, not panic. A clear, loud shout aimed at the waking city. "Help! Call the police! They're kidnapping him!" The words sliced through the fog like a blade. Sound doesn't travel well in mist, but human alarm travels better than physics. Windows above flickered with movement. Curtains shifted. A balcony door opened somewhere with a startled, angry voice. The grip on Raj faltered. The fog hesitated. And in that hesitation, I yanked Raj backward hard enough that we both fell onto the wet pavement. The phone skittered away, but Raj lunged and grabbed it, clutching it to his chest like a child holding a toy. Mara pulled us up. Go! We ran, not far because London isn't built for escape, but enough to break the fog's immediate reach. The fog didn't chase fast. It simply rolled after us, unhurried, confident, like it knew we couldn't outrun the city. Behind us, the van doors opened. I heard the heavy click of locks. The body, another wrapped shape, was being moved. Mara glanced back, face pale. They'll finish before anyone arrives. Raj panted. Then we have to stop it. How? I snapped. Raj's eyes were wild. The fog is their cover. If we break the cover... Mara nodded sharply, understanding. Wind. We need wind or force. My gaze darted to a construction area nearby, where a portable blower sat beside stacked barriers, used for drying concrete or clearing dust. I pointed. That. We sprinted to it, hands fumbling with switches. The machine hummed, then roared. A hard stream of air blasted forward. We aimed it at the fog. The fog buckled. For the first time, it looked like what it truly was. Manufactured vapor, dense and controlled. The lantern glow wavered, and through the thinning white, I saw the outline of a person holding the lantern, standing on a low platform with equipment, hoses, canisters, a compact fog unit mounted on a wheeled frame, a fog rig. A man turned his head toward us, eyes cold, face ordinary in the cruelest way. He looked like anyone, like a neighbor, like a bloke you'd pass on the DLR. He raised his free hand and pointed at us like we were items on a list. Then he spoke into his radio, and the security men appeared again, moving fast now, no longer pretending. Mara shouted, "Keep the blower on him!" Raj held it steady, teeth clenched, blasting the fog apart in ragged bursts. The lantern man stumbled back, shielding his face. The fog tore open, exposing the van, the men, the wrapped shape halfway out. For a moment, just a moment, the truth was visible. And in that moment, a police siren sounded close, real close. Mara's eyes flashed. Someone called. The security men froze, calculating. The lantern man's gaze locked on mine. Pure hate, pure decision. Then he swung the lantern down hard, smashing it on the pavement. The warm glow died. The fog began to collapse. And in the chaos, they shoved the wrapped shape back into the van and slammed the doors. The van engine started, and the vehicle lurched forward, straight toward us. The van came at us like a decision made by someone who'd already accepted the consequences. It wasn't a warning. It wasn't intimidation. It was an attempt to remove witnesses in the simplest way possible. I grabbed Mara and shoved her sideways. Raj stumbled back, almost losing the blower. The van clipped the construction barrier, scraping metal, but kept going, tires squealing on wet pavement. It passed within feet of us, close enough that I could see the driver's eyes through the windshield, flat and focused, like he was steering through traffic, not through people. The police siren grew louder. The van turned sharply, heading for the main road. Raj dropped the blower and took off after it, filming as he ran. Get the plate, get the plate. But the van had no plate on the rear, only a clean white door. Mara cursed. Of course. I sprinted too, lungs burning, heart slamming. The van reached the corner, then hesitated. A police car swung into view at the far end of the road, lights flashing. For a moment, hope surged in me, ridiculous and bright. But the police car didn't accelerate toward the van. It slowed. And then, impossibly, it stopped, positioned not to block the van, but to give it space. My stomach dropped through the floor. The officer inside didn't get out, didn't raise a hand, didn't do anything that looked like policing. The van rolled past the police car like it had permission, and then it was gone. Raj slowed, pan staring at the police car with disbelief. What the hell?
The police car's window lowered. The officer leaned out slightly, face calm. Everything all right here? Mara's laugh was sharp, bitter. You tell us. The officer's eyes flicked over us. 3 disheveled people, 1 abandoned blower, a wet street, thinning fog. Then he smiled in a way that didn't reach his eyes. Had a report of a disturbance, he said mildly. Looks like it's sorted. Raj stepped forward, voice shaking with rage. They had a body in that van. The officer's smile tightened. That's a serious allegation. We have footage, Raj snapped, waving his phone. The officer's gaze sharpened. Do you now? Something in his tone made my skin crawl. Not disbelief. Interest. Mara's hand touched my arm, warning, don't. Raj didn't understand, or didn't care. He held the phone up as if the screen itself could force justice into being. The officer opened his door slowly and stepped out, posture relaxed. Let's have a look, then. Mara's voice was low. Raj, no. Raj hesitated, but anger pushed him forward. He extended the phone. The officer took it and didn't give it back. He looked at the screen for a moment, expression blank. Then he tapped something. Once. Twice. Raj's face strained. What are you doing? The officer handed the phone back. The screen was dark. Raj pressed the power button, frantic. Nothing. No response. The device was dead in his hands like a fish gone stiff. The officer shrugged. Battery problems, he said, tone pleasant. Happens. Raj's voice cracked. You wiped it.
The officer's smile returned, thin as paper. Be careful with accusations, mate. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Go home. Don't walk the cut at night. It isn't safe. Mara stared at him with a fury that looked like grief. The officer got back in his car and drove away slowly, siren off. We stood in the damp quiet, the fog dissolving into ordinary morning haze, the city waking up around us like nothing had happened. Raj's hands trembled around his dead phone. We're finished. Mara looked at him, then at me. No, she said. We're just out of the easy options. Raj and I went to his flat because it was the nearest place that felt like it had walls thick enough to keep the city out. Mara came too, silent and tense, checking over her shoulder at every corner. Inside, Raj tore at his sock and pulled out the tiny SD card with shaking fingers. He slotted it into his laptop. For a terrifying second, nothing happened. Then a folder opened. Footage. The fog bank. The lantern. The wrapped transfer. The cold storage door. The van. The men. The fog rig. Proof. Raj let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. Mara closed her eyes, relief loosening her shoulders for the first time. They didn't know about the sock, Raj whispered. Because you looked like you were just filming, Mara replied. They didn't expect you to think like a thief. Raj glanced at her. You think like one. Mara didn't flinch. I think like someone who's survived. We copied the files 3 times, external drive, cloud upload, and a hidden folder on a second laptop Raj kept for work. Then we wrote down names and details Mara provided, management company names, dock access permits, the time patterns, the cold storage lease suspicion. Raj's hands moved faster now, purpose replacing panic. We send it to a journalist, he said, not police, not first. Mara nodded, and to an MP, someone who likes a scandal. I stared at the footage again, watching the lantern bob in the fog. It was almost beautiful. That was the sickest part. "Who is the lantern man?" I asked. Mara's jaw clenched.
"I don't know his name, but I've seen him in daylight." She described him: ordinary face, short hair, a slight limp. He works the area, blends in. Raj's fingers paused on the keyboard. "Then he's local. Or pretending," Mara said. I leaned back, exhausted. What happens when they realize footage exists? Mara looked at me. "They'll come." As if summoned by her words, a soft sound came from outside Raj's window. A clink. A chain touching metal. Raj froze. Mara moved like a knife, stepping to the window edge, peering through the gap in the curtains. Her face hardened. "He's here," she whispered. I stood slowly, body heavy with dread. "The lantern man." Mara nodded once. "And he brought someone." Raj's voice was barely audible. "How did they find us?" Mara's eyes flicked to Raj's laptop, then to the router blinking quietly in the corner. "Because London doesn't just watch with cameras," she said. "It watches with everything." The clink came again, closer. Then softly, someone knocked. Not a bang, not aggression. A polite knock, like a neighbor borrowing sugar. Raj stared at the door as if it might open by itself. Mara reached into her coat pocket and pulled out something small and heavy, a compact canister. "What's that?" I asked. Mara's eyes didn't leave the door. "Insurance." Another knock. And then the voice. Calm, familiar, terrible. "I know you've got it." The lantern man called through the door. "Let's not make a mess." Raj's flat felt suddenly too small for 3 breathing people and one approaching certainty. The knocking stopped. Silence expanded. Then the chain clinked again, right outside the door, like someone adjusting something. Mara whispered, "He's setting up fog." Raj's eyes widened. "Inside the building?" "They can," Mara said. "Portable rig. Canisters. It doesn't need water if it's glycol-based." My mouth went dry. "They'll flood the corridor." Raj's voice cracked. "We call. Not the police." Mara snapped. "Not after what we saw." She pointed at Raj's laptop. "Upload now. Send now. If we lose everything else, the story has to escape the room." Raj's fingers flew. Emails, links, attachments. He sent to a journalist contact he'd found through a friend, someone with a reputation for digging into council corruption. He sent to an MP's office email. He sent to a Canal watchdog group. He sent to more than he could count, spreading it like seeds. Outside, a faint hiss began, barely audible. Fog seeped under the door, thin and white, curling into the flat like a living thing. Raj coughed once. "Jesus." Mara pulled her scarf up over her mouth and nose. "He wants us disoriented." The fog thickened quickly, swallowing the lower half of the room. The voice came again, calm and almost kind. "You don't want to breathe too much of that." I stared at the fog creeping towards the laptop table. Mara's eyes darted, calculating.
Then she grabbed Raj's kettle from the counter and flung water toward the doorway, soaking the fog as it entered. The fog collapsed into damp haze for a second, buying us time. "Bathroom window," Mara said. Now. Raj hesitated. What about the files? Or the bathroom, coughing. The air tasted sweet and chemical, like burnt sugar. Mara yanked the window open. Cold air sliced in, clearing a thin path. We climbed out onto the small exterior ledge, hands numb with cold, fog spilling out behind us like a white tongue. From the corridor inside, the door handle turned. Raj looked back, eyes wide with terror. He's coming in. Mara swung her legs over first, dropping onto a narrow back stair landing. Raj followed, nearly slipping. I went last, feeling the ledge tremble under my weight, the city below too far and too uncaring. As my feet hit the landing, I heard the door inside Raj's flat open fully. The lantern man's voice drifted out through the window, slightly distorted by fog. "You're making this so dramatic." We fled down the back stairs, half blind, lungs burning. Outside, the early morning street was waking, someone walking a dog, a bin lorry rumbling in the distance. No one noticed us. We looked like 3 people late for work. We didn't stop until we reached the towpath again, the Limehouse Cut stretching ahead like a dark line of ink.
Mara leaned against the railing, breathing hard. Raj clutched the backpack like it contained his heart. I stared at the water. "What now?" Raj whispered. Mara looked at the cut, eyes hard. "Now we let the city do what it hates." "What's that?" I asked. Mara's lips tightened into a grim smile. "Pay attention." As if on cue, Raj's phone buzzed. He'd grabbed a spare on the way out, cheap and basic. A message from an unknown number. "You think you won." Raj's hands trembled. Then another message arrived, this one from a journalist. "Got your files, calling you now." Then another, from the MP's office. "We've received your email. Please provide contact details urgently." Raj looked up, eyes wet, disbelief and hope fighting on his face. Mara exhaled slowly. "They can stage fog," she said. "They can buy silence, but they can't unsend what's already been sent." Across the water, the morning mist drifted, ordinary, unshaped, honest. But far down the cut, near the bend where the theater always began, something glowed faintly for a second. A warm amber dot. Then it vanished. Mara watched it with a look that wasn't fear anymore. It was a promise. "They'll try again," she said. I nodded, hands gripping the rail, feeling the cold iron under my fingers and the dark water beneath it. Then so will we. And for the first time since the lantern appeared in the fog, the cut didn't feel like it was swallowing secrets. It felt like it was carrying them straight into daylight.